I am super excited because today we're going to be unboxing one of my most anticipated sets of all time, Battle of Legends Volume 3.
If you're a fan of the channel, consider supporting me on Patreon. For as little as $1 per month, you can help me continue to bring you premier Unmatched content. Unlock exclusive rewards by becoming a patron today.
What's up guys, Zero Skater here, and that's right, we are back for another box opening today for Battle of Legends Volume 3. So this set, as I mentioned, is one of my most anticipated sets ever. The Battle of Legends series is my favorite in all of Unmatched. I love the public domain characters. I love how they bring a random mishmash of heroes into these boxes. And this is what started it all. And it was the first set I ever played, so a lot of nostalgia for the series as well. So I just love these, and I can't wait to open this one. And sadly, this is going to be the final Battle of Legends set that they release. They may release similar types of sets with random mishmash of characters, but it's not going to be Battle of Legends, not going to be quite the same. They might be going for more themes in the future. I don't know exactly, but this is the last one, so a little sad to say, but I can't wait to send it off with a bang because I have heard that this set is one of the best sets ever released in Unmatched. So I can't wait. I'm super excited. We're going to open it up here on camera. I'm going to go through the cards as always and give my thoughts on everything. But before we get into it, as always guys, be sure to attack that like button if you enjoy the video, and subscribe for more Unmatched content. And with that said, let's not wait any longer. We'll get into opening Battle of Legends Volume 3. Alright, here we go. We're going to open up Battle of Legends Volume 3. And before we really get into it, I want to give a big thank you to Restoration Games, as always, for providing me with the set early to do this. It's much appreciated. I love getting to be a part of all the reveals and getting my hands on the set so I can actually play it and then kind of join in with the spoiler season, because I don't like to spoil myself until I actually get to play the set. So me getting it early is awesome because then I can actually join in on all the excitement and fun with everybody. So yeah, huge shout outs to Restoration for that. But let's take a look at the side panels of the box. I guess before we get into that too, I mean, we're going to have Blackbeard, Chupacabra, Pandora, and Loki, as you can see on the front here. And then if we look at the back, you can see all the fighters here. And then we are back to having double-sided maps, so I'm sure everybody will be very excited about that. But yeah, continuing on with the side panels, we got Chupacabra, Pandora up here on the top, and we got Blackbeard on the bottom, which I've heard his art is incredible, and just even looking at this, very cool. And then we got Loki on the side. Also, I know Angel Cake on his YouTube, you can find a link and whatnot to download a video game he made where he revealed actually this card with this art, and the video game he made is so incredible, so I would recommend everybody go try that out if you haven't already. It's filled with tons of Easter eggs for like the Unmatched community, and it's just really special. He put in a lot of work into that game, and it turned out amazing, so I'd highly recommend everybody go check out that game of his. Here's some other cool Restoration games that they make. And they got a big new one too, Battle Monsters I think it's called, that's coming out pretty soon. Also we saw TMNT in here, that should be coming out soon as well. So that's really cool. We got the Battle of Legends Volume 3 specific rulebook. Again, we got Blackbeard, Loki, Pandora, and Chupacabra there. And just gonna flip through this real quick. I'm not gonna actually read it. I still don't want to spoil myself before I go play the actual set, but if any of you wanted to pause and read through any of this, feel free. We got the core rules as well. As always, I'm not really gonna go through this. My name's on the back, that's really cool. Let's see, we got the health dials here. Blackbeard's Treasury. Oh, that's cool. That's something new. So there's that. And then we have the double-sided map. So we have Venice here. Very cool. Lots of colors. I've been to Venice myself. I actually went last year before Cobble and Frogs, the in-person France tournament. Probably the best live tournament in the world. So if anybody can ever make their way out to Paris, I'd highly recommend you go to Cobble and Frogs. But if you're going to go out that way, stop at Venice too, because Venice is an incredible city. And then look at this. We have Santa's Workshop. Very interesting choices of locations for the maps. Again, we get the double-sided, which is cool, but we'll get into this a little bit later. I want to take a look at this stuff. So first and foremost, we got the figures. So we'll take a look at Loki here. Loki's probably the one I am most excited for because I play tested this in a very early version with Gary, who is the creator of Loki, because that was a fan contest runner-up, and it was really exciting. And I have heard that there's a lot that changed between then and now because it's been through years of development. But yeah, I cannot wait to see what Loki is all about now. Here's Pandora, and then we got Chupacabra. This one is a really cool one. It's cool to see like more kind of like monsters in the game rather than typical humans, you know. And so this mini is really cool. So there's Chupacabra, and last but not least, we got Blackbeard. This is an awesome looking mini. Wow. Look at all the detail. He's got the pistol in the one hand, he's got his sword in the other, he's got a power stance going on. His outfit looks really cool with this belt full of gadgets or whatever they are. Looks like more guns actually. Awesome. Really cool minis there. I think the Pandora one's my least favorite, but it's still cool looking. Let's see, we got some sidekicks as well. So it looks like 2 for Blackbeard and 2 for Pandora. So the Pandora ones are here. I'm not sure what these are all about yet, but they look like they are the same on both sides. Both of them do have unique art, so we'll see if that means anything. But there's that, and then we got 2 for Blackbeard. Also, the same art on both sides, so they're not like 2 health sidekicks like Yanenga has. So we'll see what these guys are all about, and if they are unique as well. Imagine, you know, Pirate's got to have his crew. We got the little rivet things, and then we have the decks. So we got Loki. Let's open this up real quick. I'm not going to look at or go over the ability or anything yet, but we can at least take a look at the card backs, because card back art is always some of the best art in Unmatched. And so we can admire the sweet card back here. This one is really interesting. It's got a cool color scheme, something that I feel like we haven't really seen much of yet in Unmatched. So there's Loki, and this next one will be Pandora. Interesting, Pandora has these extra little cards. Reminds me of the Glamours from Titania's deck. They're the same shape and size, so we'll see what those are all about. If it's some kind of similar mechanic or something totally new. I don't know. Can't wait to find out though. I've heard really good things about all 4 of these new characters. So yeah, it's going to be an awesome set, I'm sure. Let me take a look at this Pandora card back if I can ever get this fully opened. Alright, this is very unique as well. I like how much white there is. Kind of an off-white, like a golden white. That's very cool. And then Chupacabra. I've heard that this art is more like comic book style, which some people I'm sure will really enjoy. but very plain looking card back. I think it stands out a lot though. The art style definitely does stand out. I like how it's like a menacing jungle creature. And then Blackbeard. Alright. Blackbeard and his ghostly ship. I like how they made him seem so kind of ethereal. You know, he's like kind of a ghost captain, which is really cool. I like the, wow, the dotted lines are on the outside with X marks the spot up in the corner. That's a really nice touch for the border there. And then we'll go ahead and open up these, whatever these are. I think Darkblade just revealed something on his channel today, actually, if I'm correct, but I think these were called, I don't remember what these were called exactly. Misery cards, maybe? Something like that. But all kinds of different effects here. So that's cool. What else? That's about it. What I'm going to do is go play a game with these guys. I'm going to do a good old 2v2 with my friends who I used to play with way back in the day when we first got into the game. We're going to get together again and play 2v2 just like good old times. So I'm super excited about that. It's going to be a ton of fun, but that'll give me a chance to try out all these characters without knowing anything about their decks, and that's the best way to play because every turn is full of surprises as you draw the most ridiculous new cards that you never expected to see. So if anybody can do that, if you can avoid spoilers long enough, I highly recommend playing that way. It's just super, super fun. Before I do that real quick, I always forget, but we're going to go ahead and take a look at the side panel art as well. So there's another Chupacabra art. Got another Pandora. Another Loki. I like how this one has the face kind of painted over the statue. That's hilarious. And then it's got to be a Blackbeard one of the crew cards, I'd imagine. So yeah, that's all the components there. Like I said, I'm going to go try these out, and then I will be back and we will go over all of the decks. Alright, so I just got done playing a couple of 2v2s for the first time with the set, and I must say it does not disappoint. But we're going to go over the first fighter being Loki, which was the first one I played. Like I mentioned, it was the one I was most anticipating. So we're going to talk about what he's all about. He is a melee move 2 fighter. He's a solo hero, and he has 16 starting health. His ability is Mischief Monger that says after you play a trick, put that card into your opponent's hand instead of your discard pile. If an opponent discards a trick from their hand, return that card to your hand or to the top of your deck. And then you add +1 to your move value for each trick in your opponent's hands. So it is really interesting. It's kind of a mouthful, but tricks are a certain type of card like Voyages or Jeets, as we've seen. And instead of sending them to the discard pile when you play them, they go to your opponent's hand. And then they kind of rot your opponent's hand until they either play them and they get some kind of negative effect for playing them, or they discard them to a hand limit or some kind of discard effect, and then you get them back either into your hand or top of your deck, your choice, which is really nice because you can either use them to pressure by putting it to hand if you need hand advantage, or you can play towards fatigue and add it to the top of your deck. You can decide based on the game state. So really interesting ability. We're going to get into more about the strategy and how it works exactly as we go through the deck. And a nice little bonus is you do ramp up your move value similar to Sinbad. The more tricks are building up in your opponent's hands. So, really, really cool. Let's get into the deck. The first card is a trick. It is called Baldur's Downfall. I just want to give a forewarning that I'm sure I will mispronounce many of these cards as they got some crazy names. Forgive me for that, but this one's pretty simple. Baldur's Downfall is a 4-value attack. It has 2 different effects, one if you're Loki and one if you're not Loki. So if you're Loki, after combat, you draw a card. Very simple effect, 4-value attack, draw a card, pretty nice. And then, again, it goes to your opponent's hand because it is a trick. Now, it's in your opponent's hand. You can see that it is the trick because it has your Loki card back, of course. And then if they play it, again, it's just a 4-value attack.
But after combat, you're going to deal 2 damage to your hero, which again refers to the opponent playing the card. So they're going to damage themselves for 2 by playing this card. So yeah, they get an extra card they can use for value, but they're going to take a hit to their HP in doing so. So they have to gauge whether or not it's worth even playing this card or just letting it sit and rot in their hand, which gives you plenty of bonuses like that extra move value and some other perks we're going to see as we go through the deck more. And if you notice, there is no boost value on this card. So trick cards don't have boost values. They cannot be used as the opponent to boost in order to get them out of their hand. So again, they have to be discarded from hand from overdraw at the end of turn or by one of Loki's discard effects if he has any. So yeah, really interesting. There's 3 copies of this trick, pretty basic, but it's a cool one. So let's get into the next card. We're going to see some payoffs for the tricks immediately with Shapeshifter, which there's 4 copies of, which is really cool. It's a 0 value attack, but during combat, you choose one effect. You either add +1 to this value for each card in your opponent's hand, or you gain an action. So it's kind of like a regroup bait in a way. If you just gain the action, you're just trying to rip out opponents' defenses and then attack them again. Or it can be a really powerful attack because if your opponent has 7 cards in hand, they play a defense, and you are attacking with this, then you get a 6 value attack, which is really nice. Of course, if the opponent takes it undefended, then you feel really bad because, oh, never mind. As I'm saying that, I realize, no, if they don't defend, you just make it a massive value attack, and you're happy with that. But if they have low hand count, and they don't defend, then it's not so punishing. So it's a really tricky card, and with 4 copies, the opponent has to consider this almost always. So this is a really cool payoff for the tricks, and it doesn't have to be tricks, but it just plays into the fact that you're giving your opponent extra cards in hand by buffing up the Shapeshifter. So really cool interaction there. Tons of mind games with this card. I love it. The art is awesome. This is so Loki. And then we're going to see another card that plays really well into the tricks because it's called Looking for Trouble. It says immediately if your opponent played a card, return it to their hand, look at their hand, and choose a card for them to play. 3 copies, which is awesome. It's a 4 value attack that is essentially an offensive do my bidding that we've seen from Drac or Philippa. Such a cool effect to see on an offensive card here. 3 boost value is also good, and another really neat thing is if they have a trick that can be played as defense, you can force them to play it, which of course is going to give some kind of detrimental effect to the opponent. So that is really cool, being able to force them to play your tricks. Of course, it can't be an attack like the Balder's Downfall that we saw, but we're going to see some other ones that can be played on defense. So Looking for Trouble is a really neat card. It's also great for just baiting out a feint. If they play the feint, cool, you dealt 2 over their feint for nothing. And if they have a feint in hand that they didn't play, well, you force them to play the feint, and again, you get the 2 damage punish over the feint and waste their feint. So this card, just an incredibly strong card, I think, overall, and definitely a linchpin of Loki's deck. Next up, we're going to see the big payoff for the tricks is called Ragnarok. It cannot be canceled, so no feinting this. 0 value, but during combat you add +3 to the card's value for each trick in your opponent's hand. So if they even let 2 tricks rot in their hand, this is an uncancelable 6. Already incredible, but if they have 3, it's a 9, and that is just completely absurd. So the opponent is definitely going to have to play around Ragnarok. There's 2 copies of this in the deck, which is a great finishing card, seeing as it can't be canceled. So you'd have to use some kind of ignore value or like a stasis diffuser that says this value can't be changed. Something like that to stop this, because feints aren't going to work. And this card is just incredibly deadly. 3 boost value if you need it. I don't imagine you're going to need to boost much because your movement is probably going to be increased from your ability. But this card is just awesome. Next up, we're going to see another trick. This is the first defensive one called Sindri's Bet. So 3 value defense. If you're Loki playing it, then during combat your opponent may discard a card. If they don't, you subtract 3 from their card's value. So you either essentially have a 6 value defense, or it is a 3 value, Clutching Claws or Hiss and Slither from Medusa. Just a simple defense, 3 value that makes the opponent discard a card. That's often what Shield Formation does for Yananga. This is just a really good card for Loki. The opponent gets to choose, so it's always going to be the worst for you. Like if they throw a bait attack, they don't care that their value gets subtracted. But whatever, I mean, it's a good card overall, and it's a trick, so it goes in your opponent's hand. And then if the opponent plays it,
Then after combat, Loki returns the top card of their discard pile to their hand. So it gives you some recursion, which is really, really nice. So again, if you attack with something like Looking for Trouble, you can force the opponent to play this card and then get your top card of your discard pile back to hand for some recursion. Really, really cool. 2 copies in the deck is nice. It's going to be neat to see how people set up their discard piles to get back specific cards with this one. Next one, we're going to move into the versatiles. Another trick called Freya's Rescue, I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced. 2 copies of this one. It's a versatile 2. If you're Loki during combat, you swap the values of your card and your opponent's card. Super cool, because if you throw this on offense and they defend with like a max value block, like a skirmish, then you're going to swap the values and you're going to hit them for 2 damage over the top of their skirmish, which is incredible. It's like throwing a log over a skirmish, right? So that's really, really good. And if you play this on defense, you're almost surely not taking any damage, because if they threw like a 5 value attack, they swap, you get the 5 value defense into the 2 value attack, you're happy. So this card is just really, really good overall. Very neat. And if you're not Loki, then after combat, Loki heals 3. That's really, really good. Obviously, that's a lot of healing. And again, if this is a trick in the opponent's hand, and then Loki attacks with Looking for Trouble, you look at their hand, you force this out, not only are you dealing 2 damage over a 2 with your 4 value attack, but you're also going to end up healing 3 yourself in the process. And that is a 5 health swing, which is insane, right? So this card is really, really strong. All right, next up, God of Mischief. This is Loki's feint, essentially, because immediately if your opponent played a trick, you ignore the card's value. Otherwise, you cancel all effects on your opponent's card. So if it's not a trick, if it's one of their cards, this is just a straight up feint, which you know and love. It's got a 3 boost value, which is really nice. And then if they are attacking with a trick, you know it's a trick coming, because again, the card back gives it away since it's your card back. And so you can choose to play this when you know it's a trick, and you would just ignore the card's value. So if they're attacking with, let's say they have Baldur's Downfall, they're attacking with it, you just don't want to take any damage, you can just defend with this, guarantee that you don't take damage, and they will take 2 because of the not Loki after combat effect of Baldur's Downfall. So that's a really neat interaction, and in general, you just love to have feints, so God of Mischief is very good. Next card we are going to see is Levatine. It's a 2 value versatile. It says during combat, reveal a card in your opponent's hand, add its boost value to this card's value, and if you reveal a trick, you put it into your hand. So only a 2 value is not very strong in general, but again, you get to buff it up based on the boost value of what you reveal from your opponent's hand. Now, again, you can see the card backs, so if they have tricks in their hand, you can just straight up choose to yoink one of those tricks and get it back to your hand instantly, which could be really good. Or if you just need the value, you make sure you don't pick a trick, because it's not a random reveal. The opponent doesn't get to choose. You get to choose the card. You just, you don't know what it is, but you can see the card back. So if you want to buff this value, just pick one of the opponent's card backs, and you're going to get this to be at least a 3, if not probably a 4 or higher on average. So this card is really nice to have that choice. Really, really cool card that plays into the trick aspect of the deck. Next up, we're going to see Underhanded, another one that kind of plays into the tricks in a weird way. It's a 3 value versatile. It simply says during combat, if your opponent has more cards in hand than you, this is a 6 instead. So we all know and love Momentous Shift. This is a similar type of card, but it's much easier to use the buffed value on defense. Your opponent just has to have more cards than you, and that's pretty easy for you to control when you're giving them extra cards with tricks. So if you play at a slightly lower hand count, chances are that they are just naturally going to have more than you. Even if you're naturally at parity, the fact that your tricks buff their hand count is going to make this trigger pretty easily. And there's 3 copies of this, which is an incredible defense or an awesome offensive card as well. So Underhanded is really, really cool. Next up, this is basically the regroup of the deck, I would say. Malicious Flighting, 3 value versatile. After combat, you just draw a card. That's like a Snark. Or a Snipe from Medusa, but if your opponent played a trick, you draw 2 instead. So if they're attacking you with a trick and you know it and you want the card draw, you can play this for a 3 value defense that draws 2, which is pretty nice. If you attack with it, you don't know whether or not they're going to play the trick if they have one in hand available. because they choose their defense after you put down your attack. So you can't control the amount of card draw as well on offense, but it's a fine defense. I don't know if Loki is going to end up playing towards fatigue or trying to kill you yet. I haven't played them in 1v1 at all. Like I said, I just did the 2v2s. So we'll see how this works out, but it's basically the regroup of the deck. It's kind of an interesting one. And last but not least, we have another trick that's a scheme this time. This is Svadlafari's Lure. This one, when you're Loki, you place an opposing fighter adjacent to Loki. So you yoink them from anywhere on the board, and you just put them adjacent to Loki. And then if you're not Loki, and they play this, then Loki reveals a card in your hand and discards that card. So if they want to play this scheme to get it out of their hand, they're going to also lose another one of their cards, which is pretty bad for them. And you can't boost with this, and you can't play it in combat. So this one is really difficult to get out of the hand, other than like overdrawing, right? And if they overdraw and discard this, it goes right back to Loki's hand or on top of his deck. And this is a pass because it doesn't draw or gain action. So Loki playing a pass to bring the opponent to you and make an attack, and then this goes to their hand. And then if they end up overdrawing, that means they're maneuvering a lot, which means they're playing very passively. Which is putting them closer towards fatigue from the maneuvers, and then they overdraw this, and you can use this to put on top of your deck as Loki, which is increasing your deck size, and then you're going to maneuver, and you're going to draw into another pass. So I think this card may single-handedly prevent the opponent from going towards fatigue when they're against Loki. It might solve any kind of initiative issues that Loki may or may not have. With 2 copies of this in the deck, that is a really neat one, and I think might make a big impact in Loki games. But yeah, that is the deck for you for Loki. Really, really unique. Who knows how it's going to play out in 1v1s, but I absolutely cannot wait to try this guy out more. He is super cool, and I can't wait to move on to the rest of these awesome fighters. Alright, the next one is going to be Pandora, and this is the second fighter that I played in our 2v2s. We played 2 games. I did my first one Loki, then next Pandora, and I liked both of them a lot. They were both super fun. Pandora is a melee fighter, move 2 as well, starting health of 14, with sidekicks the Keiko Demons, I think that's pronounced. They're melees, and they are token sidekicks. You can have up to 2 of them. Pandora's Box is the ability, and you do not start with any Keiko Demons on the board. So you start off as a solo fighter, but then at the start of your turn you open Pandora's Box. So let's talk about what Pandora's Box is. So here's the explanation card. Pandora's Box is a deck of 7 cards called Miseries. When you open the box, reveal the top card and resolve its effect, if any. You may keep revealing and resolving additional cards one at a time until you choose to stop. If there's 3 or more total feathers on revealed cards, you must stop, and Pandora takes a damage for each revealed misery card. At the end of your turn, shuffle all revealed miseries back into Pandora's Box. So again, at the start of your turn, every turn, you're going to do a little bit of gambling. You're going to be opening up cards from Pandora's Box. This is the misery deck, the misery cards. This is Pandora's Box. So kind of like Titania's Glamours. We're going to take a look at what they are. So one of them is Greed. So this one again has the feather symbol. So if you hit 3 feathers, you must stop and take damage equal to the number of cards you flipped. But if you flip Greed, you get to draw a card. Nice, free card draw. Next one up is going to be Toil. You get to add +1 to the value of Pandora's attacks this turn. That's a nice attack buff. If you can make a double attack, if they started adjacent to you, you can get like free nunchaku off of this, right? That can be really nice. Next one up is Pain. So deal a damage to each opposing fighter adjacent to Pandora. This is incredible if token sidekicks try to pin you or start adjacent to you. You have some defensive movement, so if you can, like against a ranged fighter, play the defensive movement, move up to them, and then start your turn and flip Pain, you'll get free auto damage, kind of like Drac or Medusa, which is always nice. But again, these 3 have feathers on them, so got to be careful when you're flipping. Next one, there are 3 without feathers. So the first one being Confusion. You move Pandora up to 1 space. This combos really nicely with the one we just saw in Pain. So if you flip Confusion first, you can move Pandora 1 space for free, which might get you adjacent to an opponent. And then if you flip Pain, then you get to ping for that auto damage, which is really cool. This just also helps close the gap being a move 2 melee. So this one is really nice. Next one is going to be Woe. So Woe is incredible. You just summon a Keiko Demon in Pandora's Zone. That's crazy because if you were to happen to flip this every single turn, if you're lucky enough, you're going to get a free token sidekick every single turn, and in that case, you are like Wukong. And we all know how much of a menace Wukong can be with his clone wall. So this is just a crazy, crazy strong ability, but again, it's all random. So Woe is a really strong one. Next up is Hope. This is kind of like a neutral. You just look at the top card of Pandora's box before deciding whether to reveal it. So if you happen to flip this one, it's essentially like you didn't flip yet, but you got some foresight into what you're going to flip next. If it's going to make you bust, we'll call it, right? If you hit the 3 feathers, if this is going to make you hit your 3rd feather, you can just choose not to reveal the card. And if it's something safe, then sure, you get a free one. So you're never upset to hit this one. It's just kind of a neutral card there. And last but not least, we simply have Misfortune, which is a double feather. So this is the one that throws off all the math on this. Otherwise, you could always just keep flipping until you had 2 feathers, and then if you want to be safe, you can stop. But with Misfortune, if you flip a single feather, you have to think about stopping, because then if you flip Misfortune, you bust, and you'd take minimum of 2 damage. So this is the card that really makes the gambling kind of crazy. So again, you have 3 feathers, you have 3 blanks, and you have a double feather. So you got to consider what are the odds whenever you are opening up Pandora's box at the start of every single turn. So that's a lot of decision making and a lot of gambling involved in this character. And you guys know, if you watch my content, anytime you ask yourself, what are the chances? It's always 100%, right? So be careful. But that's Pandora's box for you. It's a really interesting mechanic here. I guess I can keep all of these. I'll keep all these out in case you guys want to see it all. And then we'll go ahead and get into the deck. So, Pandora, very fun. Let's take a look at what Pandora is all about. So the first card we're going to see is Hera's Curiosity. So it's a 3-value attack for Pandora. It says during combat, add +1 to this card's value for each revealed misery. After combat, look at your opponent's hand. It's a 4 boost value, which is interesting. It's got 3 copies in the deck, so you're likely to find it pretty often. And this card can be pretty insane. It's a bit unassuming at first, but again, remember at the start of your turn, you can flip all these misery cards. I think you can get a maximum of 6 revealed before you bust, because you could hit the 3 blanks and then feather, and then either the last feather or the double feather. So you could have a max of 6, which would make this a 9-value attack. In addition to one of these, Toil adds +1 to the value of Pandora's attacks this turn. So it could be upwards of a 10-value attack. And then after combat, you get to look at your opponent's hand. This is incredibly threatening. This is the big, dangerous attack that you want to be seeing with Pandora. This is the reason you want to gamble and push far into the Misery deck. This card is just awesome. I love this one. And even if it gets fainted, I mean, if you have Toil, then you punish the feint for 2 damage over the top, which isn't even bad at all. So this card is just awesome. And with 3 copies in the deck, you're going to see it a lot. This is a big one. Tons of fun. Next one is similar. I love the art, similarity between these two. They're both attacks that play off the miseries, and they both have very similar art. But this is Aphrodite's Beauty. So it's a 0-value attack. Immediately, you cancel all effects on your opponent's card. So again, it's an offensive feint. And after combat, Pandora recovers a health for each revealed misery. So that's potentially massive healing. Again, you can't do the 6 healing, because if you did the 6 miseries and bust, like I said before, you're just going to heal back the 6 that you lost, which is a good insurance policy, so to speak. But I think the max that you can actually net healing on this card is 5. 5 healing is still absolutely ridiculous. There's 3 copies of this in the deck, so the healing potential is through the roof with this one. But you got to gamble to get there, and it's not likely to always get the max healing. But even having an offensive feint that nets you maybe 2 healing is pretty dang good. So this is a nice card, and again, it's a great insurance policy if you happen to bust and you really need to just heal back. This card's awesome. So Aphrodite's Beauty is really good. And then next up, we're going to see Hindsight, so a 3-value attack for Pandora. After combat, if you won the combat, return a card from your discard pile to the top of your deck. 3 copies of this in the deck gives you a lot of really good recursion potential, because obviously you could use Hindsight to recur another Hindsight and kind of keep a chain of attacks going. It's only a 3-value attack, which is hard to win with, but if you reveal the Toil, this becomes a 4-value attack, so you always got to consider that, and 4-value attacks are not the hardest to win with. So Hindsight is really nice to have 3 copies in the deck, and if Pandora needs recursion at all, you know, this one is a great one. Next up, we'll see a couple of defenses. First one is Celestial Raiments. Raiments? I don't know. But it's a Pandora defense, 0 value, but during combat, you ignore the value of your opponent's card. So this will full block any kind of log or just big value attack. Even something that changes value like a Momentous Shift isn't safe. The only thing is this doesn't do anything to the opponent's effects, so if it's some kind of auto damage attack like Little Red or something of the sort, then this doesn't do anything. And also, if the opponent has an offensive cancel, this card is going to get punished real hard. But not a whole lot of characters have offensive cancels unless they want to throw their offensive feint, but only 2 damage from a feint isn't the worst thing in the world, and the upside of this card is, I think, much higher than the downside, just being able to full negate a card value. So 2 copies of this, pretty dang good defenses there. Next up, we'll see another defense, Offering to the Gods. So this one's a 2 value. During combat, you can boost it to make it even higher. After combat, if you won the combat, deal 2 damage to the opposing fighter. So pretty easy. As we can see, there's a lot of high boost values. We got a 4 set of 3s, a couple of 3s here. Even 2 is just fine. That's average, because a 2 boost would make this a max value block at a 4. And yes, you have to spend a second card to get the value bumped up. But after combat, if you won, you're dealing 2 to the opposing fighter, and you can almost guarantee that you are winning based on the boost values in your hand. Just match the opponent's attack value, and you're going to get the 2 auto damage. So it's like you full blocked their attack, and at the same time, the card you used to boost was essentially a 2 auto damage effect, like a scheme, basically a spear throw or momentary glance, you know. So this is a really strong defense. 2 copies of this in the deck is also very nice. Next up, we're going to get into the versatiles. The first one, Guided by Fates. 2 value any. Versatile. During combat, discard the top card of your deck, add its boost value to this card's value. So that is essentially a blind boost, which isn't always the best, but it can potentially make this a 6 value versatile if you boost Hera's Curiosity, or plenty of other high boosts to make it a 5. So it's potentially a really good value card. It itself is a 3, and there's 3 copies, so you might use one of these and blind boost the other copy. And then after combat, if you won, Pandora recovers 2 health. So again, even though it's spending 2 cards, it's kind of like using that other card as a healing scheme, which is really nice. And you're also full blocking or dealing damage because you're bumping up this card's value. So even though you have to blind boost, there's a lot of upside to this card. So that's a really cool one. Lots of randomness in this deck, but some people love that. So next card is going to be Divine Intervention, Pandora specific versatile. After combat, move Pandora up to 5 spaces. This is cool because it's a reprint of a card we've seen way back in the first ever set with King Arthur. Divine Intervention is crazy amounts of movement. Like 5 spaces is insane. Hoax, I think, is the only card that really rivals this, because Hoax also moves 5, but it's a 4 value versatile instead of a 3. And Hoax can also let you move through opponents, so this isn't quite as good as a Hoax, but it's pretty dang good. And if it was in a deck that wasn't King Arthur, I think you'd have a lot more appreciation for a card like this. But this is some really nice movement here. So 2 copies in the deck, not bad at all. Next up, we're going to see good old Feint. We got a full set of Feints. You'll love that. Standard 2 boost value. It's, you know, it's what we expect. So gotta love to see Feints in the deck. Next up, we're going to see a scheme now, Zeus's Mischief. So you draw a card for each revealed misery, you move an opposing fighter up to 1 space, and you gain an action. So, doesn't seem that great. It's definitely not a card you're using for passing. It's not a fatigue card, but it is potentially an incredible aggressive card. Because if you reveal, let's say, 4 miseries, you play this, you get to draw 4, so you plus 3. You went from 4 cards in hand, let's say, up to 7 instantly, you still have all your actions available, and you got to move the opponent a little bit closer to you, which if you combine with which one is it? Confusion, that moved you 1 space, and then you play Zeus, which moves them 1 space. If they, let's say, are moved to melee or something, they attacked you first action and simply maneuvered away, you could close the gap entirely with just that, and then you have a million cards in hand now and ready to just blast them. So this is a really great offensive card. 2 copies of this in the deck might make for some really explosive turns. So really cool to see. Next up, we got another scheme that will help with aggression, forged by Hephaestus, I think. 3 copies. It's essentially a mist form that we've seen from Dracula, but with a new name. You place your fighter in any space, and you gain an action. It isn't any, so you could use it with one of your sidekicks if you really wanted to, which is a little bit interesting. But yeah, it's 3 copies. It just lets you chase down the opponent whenever you need to, wherever they are at. You are ready to strike. So on those crucial turns, when you happen to get lucky and you flip a lot of miseries from the box and you're loaded up with Hera's Curiosity or Aphrodite's Beauty, you want to make a double attack now while you get the benefit of all of these misery cards buffing these, as well as maybe a +1 to your attacks or whatever the case may be. You're going to have your scheme to pull the trigger when you need to. So that is a really nice card to have. Then we're going to see a couple of cards for the sidekicks, the Keiko Demons. Spite is the first one. I absolutely love this art, by the way. But after combat, you deal a damage to each fighter adjacent to your fighter. So it's a 3 value attack that deals 1 auto damage, and really good for pinging off 1 health sidekicks. And it's kind of like a 4 in a way, but even better, I think. So 2 copies of this is a great attack for your sidekicks. And last but not least, we have Malice. So the counterpart to the Spite. Again, I love these arts here. I love the color scheme of it, and everything about it is so cool. But this one's a 2 value versatile that says after combat, your opponent discards a card. Obviously, we know discarding is really strong, and when you have something recursion like Hindsight, that you could potentially recur extra discards. That's really, really nice in terms of a value game. And 2 value block is not good. It's probably not going to keep them alive if you're playing this on defense, but it's a fine offensive attack, and the opponent has to respect the attack because sure, they could take it undefended and just take 2 if it's Malice, but if it's Spite, then they take 4 undefended, and that's much, much worse. So the mind games with that are pretty nice. Malice is a great card overall, and again, top tier art. And I like the fact that there's only 2 different sidekick specific cards, because there's a chance that you literally get 0 sidekicks the entire game. And so the fact that you only have 4 cards out of your 30 card deck that may be dead is pretty nice, but the cards that there are here available are really good, I think. And they're 2 boost values, which is fine, so if you end up blind boosting them, it's whatever. But yeah, really cool. That's Pandora for you. Tons of RNG, but really, really high potential, explosive potential if you can get lucky enough to have things work out for you, but potentially really punishing if you push your luck a little too much. I've played the Quacks of Quedlinburg, or whatever the heck that game is called, where you're drawing things out of the bag, and then there's that stupid garlic man that always wrecks me. No matter if I'm like, okay, there's only a 1 in 6 that I bust here. I say, what are the chances? And it's always 100%, and I always die. So I'm horrible at that game, so I'm sure in a competitive kind of 1v1 setting, I'm going to be horrible with Pandora, because I'm going to say, what are the chances? And I'm going to screw myself there. But it's a lot of fun. A lot of people love this randomization aspect of Pandora, and it's something really unique to Unmatched. So I love this fighter. Tons of fun. Can't wait for everybody to try it out themselves, but we're going to move on to the next fighter. All right, next up is going to be Chupacabra. And this is probably the one that I thought was the most fun in the set. I didn't play it, but I got to have my teammates play it, and it was just so cool, especially in a 2v2, because Chupa is a solo fighter, but it's melee move 3. Move 3 is really nice, starting health of 14. The special ability is called the Hunger, and after you attack, you may draw a card. Now that is a very simple but very, very powerful ability, especially because it's a May. So in a 1v1, if you're worried about fatigue, you don't have to draw. It's not like T-Rex where you are super one-dimensional. But if you want to get the card draw, it's much like Bigfoot, but it's non-conditional. You may draw the card, which is awesome, but it's not even at the end of your turn. It's every time after you attack. So if they start their turn next to you and you get a double attack, you can just draw 2 cards, which is going to give you massive hand advantage on your opponent and make for a very, very aggressive and threatening fighter. So I can't wait to see how Chupacabra works out in a 1v1, but such a fun ability and incredibly strong in a 2v2. So that's Chupa for you, but let's go ahead and get into the deck. First card, we're going to start off with a bang. It's called The More They Struggle. It's a 0 value attack, but during combat, the value of this card is equal to twice the printed value of your opponent's card. There are 3 copies of this in the deck. What an absolutely insane punish. If they max value block, you straight up just deal 4 damage over the top of their skirmish or leap away or exploit. Absolutely ridiculous. Those unlucky fighters like Jill Trent or, I don't know, Leshen or something who happen to have 5 value blocks, well, this is a 10 and you're gonna take 5. Absolutely ridiculous. I love this card so much. The mind games are huge with this. If they take it undefended, they take nothing. So it's got a lot of Wukong vibes like Rui Jingubang, because you want to take that undefended and then the second part of the attack doesn't trigger. But you could equate this if they defend with a skirmish against this. It's like a Jingubang hit into a skirmish, and that was their only defense, because then they can't defend the second 4 part coming at them. But even better than that, because the skirmish doesn't have to be their only defense. It's just if they ever play it against this, they get mega punished. This card is insane, massive damage potential. Even a standard 3 block against this, they take 3 damage, which is like throwing a 6 over a 3, which is never what you want as the opponent. Even 2 damage. I mean, a 4 over a 2 you're still happy with. Like, I just think the only thing that you can defend against this card with that you're okay is a cancel, obviously, because then it's a 0. But then that's one of your cancels gone. Or like a 1 or another 0 of your own if you have them, but not a lot of fighters even have those. And if you throw a 1 or a 0 value defense, you might get mega punished by some other attack. So this card's going to create massive mind games for the opponent. I think it's incredibly strong and definitely going to be a key card in Chupa's deck. Next card we're going to see is Feeding. 4 value attack. After combat, if Chupa has 7 or less health, gain an action and heal 1. With 3 copies, that's pretty crazy. So there's a lot of cards you'll see in this deck that have to do with Chupa's amount of health. So you kind of want to be lower health to trigger a lot of your nice effects, like this one, because a 4 value action gain and heal 1 is ridiculous. That's like a really, really good Jeet from Bruce's deck. It's just even better. If they feint this, then they still take 2, and that's already a nice feint punish for the toss-up with The More They Struggle, because if they try to cancel this card and they're canceling Feeding instead, well, then they just take 2 damage, and then you still have The More They Struggle for... And again, if they take it undefended thinking it's the 0 and it's a 4, that's a massive coin flip. So just going to be crazy mind games with Chupa, and the damage potential is crazy. This card is kind of ridiculous. Next card, Blood in the Air, also plays into that same mind game, being a printed 4. It's a 4 boost value, which is crazy, and during combat, if you already want to combat this turn, you may boost this card. And of course, if you boost it with another copy of itself, it's an 8 value attack, which is insane. It's just insane. 8 value attacks are stupid. Of course, you have to throw another one of these, but there's not a whole lot of turns where you're going to get a second attack where you already want to combat in the first attack. So, you know, the during combat is not going to trigger a whole lot, so a lot of times it is a blank 4, but if you can get this to trigger, oh man, is it going to hurt for the opponent. So discarding, I think, a second copy of this to boost it if you get that opportunity is perfectly fine. 3 copies in the deck is really nice. And yeah, I mean, the opponent kind of has to end adjacent to you for you to get a double attack. But if they do, they're going to want to maybe take the first attack undefended in case it's The More They Struggle. But of course, if they take it undefended, then Blood in the Air is online. And if they defend against the first attack and it is The More They Struggle, they get mega punished and then followed up. Like, they could get punished for a huge amount here, let's say 3 damage or something on average, and then into an 8 value Blood in the Air that if they cancel, they still take 2 damage and you don't have to boost this. Just absolutely ridiculous mind games and damage potential for that. So the setups are going to be crazy. The opponent is never going to want to end adjacent to Chupacabra, especially because every time he attacks, he just gets free card draw, which is ridiculous. But we're going to see there are ways for Chupacabra to force the double attacks. So
there's going to be some scary mind games with this deck. Moving on, Ambush Classic. You know, Ambush is an incredible attack. Definitely one you want to defend. You want to cancel the ambush, but there's 6 printed 4s that can punish the feint. So a lot of mind games here. But you know, you just during combat discard a random card from your opponent's hand and add the boost value to this card's value. The same Ambush we know and love. You gotta love to see it here in Chupacabra's deck. Next up, we're gonna see the only defense card for Chupacabra, Natural Toughness. After combat, if you lost the combat, you return it to your hand. So although it's only a 3 value defense, you kind of want that, because if the opponent ever attacks you hard, like with a 4, which is pretty standard for attacks, you're going to lose the combat, only take 1 damage, which you're totally fine with, and you get this right back to your hand for recurring defense. So there's 2 copies of this in the deck, but you can potentially get a single copy back over and over and over. So this card is awesome to have. I love this card. It's super cool, and it makes it fun to play around. I think the opponent, you know, they want to hit you low value so that the Natural Toughness doesn't trigger, but then Chupa could just choose to take, and then, you know, reducing his health anyways is going to turn stuff online like the feeding. So really cool. Next card, we're going to see Ravenous Lunge, 3 value versatile. After combat, Chupa recovers a health, and if you won the combat, it recovers 2 instead. I notice it says it recovers because Chupacabra is like a monster, right? It's a demon kind of thing, entity. I've been calling it a he, but you know, it's an it, whatever. But again, this plays into the mind games with the Natural Toughness. If they want to throw something low to bait this out and make sure it doesn't recur, then this thing is going to win combat and heal 2 health, and that's a lot of healing. We've seen stuff like this with like Winter Soldier, and you don't want to give a bunch of healing to your opponent. And with 3 copies of this in the deck, I mean, that mind game is always going to be online pretty much. So really good card there. At worst, you know, it's basically a max value block, because you're going to take a damage, but then you're just going to heal a damage right back. So it's essentially a blank 4, you know, at worst, with upside. So Ravenous Lunge is really, really good, at least on defense. Next card, we're going to see Tooth and Tail. So after combat, deal a damage to up to 2 fighters adjacent to Chupacabra, and then Chupa recovers a health for each fighter damaged this way. So really good AoE if you need to deal with pesky 1 health sidekicks. You can also heal in the process, like a Prey Upon from Dracula's deck, but in a combat card form, so this card is really nice. 3 copies of this in the deck is a lot of AoE and extra healing potential as well. Only a 2 value, so like not the best here, but a pretty good card overall, I would say. Next up, we're going to see Wounded Beast, also 3 copies, 3 value versatile. Kind of like the Momentous Shift, because during combat, if Chupa has 7 or less health, this card's value is 5 instead. So a 5 value versatile is obviously incredible. So again, once Chupa has 7 or less, a lot of these good effects are online. This thing is a really good both attack and defense. So just gets better when Chupa's lower health, so you're going to be okay taking some damage, especially if it means you get to hit back the opponent even harder, or just, you know, have better defenses at that point. Next up, we got a full set of feints. You know it, you love it. Cancel all effects of your opponent's card. It's very standard. Next card is one of the cards I alluded to earlier. It is Traveler of the Night, which is very cool because this is a card we've seen back in Moon Knight's deck, making a reappearance here with similar art style, which is just so cool. I love when they do this. 3 copies of this in the deck, though, for Chupa versus 2 for Moon Knight. Same effect, move your fighter up to 4. They may move through opposing fighters, and you gain an action. So this is what's going to set up your huge turn mind games with the More They Struggle or Blood in the Air. It's going to let you, you know, move towards them adjacent, make an attack. Hopefully you win the combat. Most likely you probably will. Then you draw a card from it to make up for the Traveler, or for the attack you played, rather. And then you make a follow-up attack with Blood in the Air, and you boost, and you make, you know, get some massive damage there. You draw another card with the ability, so you can keep up the pressure. You dealt a ton of damage. You can do this combo play 3 times a game because you have 3 Travelers, so on a move 4 map, you'll be able to do this very often. So yeah, on the smaller maps, Chupa is just going to be able to run you down. This card's crazy. Lets you move through those annoying 1 health sidekicks if you didn't happen to ping all them off. It's got a 3 boost value itself if you feel the need to boost with it. If you're not going to, if maybe you're on a move 5 map, so it's a little less good, and you do get an opportunity to Blood in the Air, maybe you're okay just boosting with Traveler. Because it's not a pass, it's just a really good aggressive card, but that's exactly what Chupacabra wants. It's going to be a very aggressive fighter. Last but certainly not least, we have 2 schemes called Unsettle. So you choose an opponent with a fighter in Chupa's zone. They discard a card. You may deal 2 damage to Chupa to make them discard 2 instead. So this card is a pass. You do have to be in the opposing fighter's zone, but you're a move 3, so that shouldn't be too difficult. And then if you want to damage yourself, you can make them discard 2 instead, which is obviously really nice, because 1 card making them discard 2 is pretty nice, and being able to alter your health total on your own terms to put, your other damaging effects online, feeding and wounded beast, that's really nice. So I think this card's really cool. I don't know if you're ever really going to use it much as like a true pass. I don't think Chupa's playing a value game, but it is nice to alter your health total and just limit the amount of options the opponent has, because it is going to give you hand advantage, and you're already going to have plenty of that with the hunger ability, so you can just keep up the aggression. So this card is just really cool to see, and I love the art on it. It's a really funny one. And that's it for Chupacabra. I mean, relatively simple, but still something really unique that we haven't quite seen in Unmatched yet. It's like Angel from the Buffy set, like Angel's ability, but just way better, because you don't have to lose, and it is optional. And you have move 3, which obviously helps you keep up aggression. Your attacks are just way better. The opponent isn't going to want to spend much time attacking you, because they're just getting attacked so much, and every time you attack them, you're drawing extra cards. They're going to want to keep distance and probably try to fatigue you out, and you're going to say, well, if you're just going to run away, I'm just going to keep racing towards you and deal as much damage as I can, and we're going to see if you can survive. And I don't know. I haven't played it in 1v1 yet. Again, it was just 2v2, which the ability, this fighter was incredible in 2v2. So we'll see if Chupa actually has the damage output necessary in a lot of 1v1 matchups to close it out. But I have a feeling it definitely might, because the more they struggle is ridiculous. Blood in the Air is potentially ridiculous. Ambush is also ridiculous. And when you have 3 travelers to set up these crazy damaging turns, I think you definitely might be able to find your damage with Chupa. So only time will tell, but that's Chupacabra for you, and we will move on to the last fighter. Alright, so last but certainly not least, we have Blackbeard. Blackbeard is a ranged fighter, move 2 with 13 starting health, and you have token sidekicks called the Sea Dogs, who are melee, and you get 2 of them. Your special ability is Privateer turned Pirate. So it says start the game with 1 doubloon in the treasury, you have the other 2. And then this doubloon effect, at the start of your turn, you may pay 1 doubloon to gain an action. And another doubloon effect, when Blackbeard takes combat damage, you pay 1 doubloon. So what are these doubloons all about, you may ask? Well, this token is called the treasury. So the treasury is here, and you have your doubloons. There are 3 of them total. So, as this card states, you start with 1 doubloon in the treasury, and Blackbeard gets the other 2, right? So it's like this at the start of the game. And then we're going to see another card here, Blackbeard's doubloons. So, what is this all about? Well, doubloons that Blackbeard doesn't have are kept in the treasury. So they're either in his possession or in the treasury, one or the other. Those are the 2 spots for the doubloons. It says Blackbeard pays a doubloon to the treasury when he takes combat damage. He may also pay a doubloon at the start of his turn to gain an extra action. This was stated on his ability card. But then the yellow effect here says the effects on many of Blackbeard's cards can be ignored by paying a ransom. Any opponent can pay the amount of doubloons shown at the end of an effect to ignore that effect. These doubloons are taken from the treasury and given to Blackbeard. So what that means is anytime there's a yellow effect, the opponent can pay X number of doubloons based on the effect to negate that effect, but then they are paying the doubloons that they have from the treasury back over to Blackbeard. And when Blackbeard spends the doubloons to gain actions, he puts them back to the treasury, giving them to the opponent, or whenever he takes combat damage, he is forced to pay a doubloon to the opponent. So it's a little bit in Blackbeard's control, because if he can prevent himself from taking combat damage, then he can stash the doubloons for himself and not let the opponent have them. And if he chooses not to gain extra actions, he can hoard the doubloons, and if he's hoarding the doubloons, it's really difficult for the opponent, because his effects are kind of insane as long as they all trigger. Of course, that is the whole balance of the mechanic, is the doubloons passing back and forth from player to player, And that's a really, really interesting and unique mechanic in the game. So I can't wait to see how this works out in a 1v1. It's going to be super, super cool. He's such a cool character. He's the one that I have the least gauge on in terms of like viability in a 1v1. I just have no idea how well this fighter is going to perform, because it's just going to be, I think the skill ceiling on this character is really high, and the doubloons are just super cool. It's going to make for a lot of fun. So let's take a look at the deck and what is this deck all about. So first card we're going to see, we're going to start off with a bang yet again. We have a Vast Yi. So 5 value attack, 3 boost value, 2 copies in the deck. There are 2 different ransom effects. So immediately your opponent discards a random card unless they pay a doubloon. So obviously we've seen with Aridin, a 5 value attack with random discard is incredibly threatening. Not only that, but after combat you deal a damage to each opposing fighter in Blackbeard's zone. Again, unless they pay a doubloon. So if the opponent has 0 doubloons, this is a 5 value attack with random discard that also deals an auto damage to every opposing fighter in your zone. That's absolutely ridiculous. But again, that's if Blackbeard has all doubloons. If the opponent has 1 doubloon, well, then this is either a 5 value ambush, well, 5 value random discard attack, which the opponent probably is going to prioritize canceling that immediately effect over the other one. In which case, if there's only 1 doubloon, it's still a 5 value attack with 1 auto damage to every opponent in the zone. Still incredibly good, because that's like a 6, but better because it has AoE. This card is just ridiculous. Of course, if the opponent has 2 doubloons, it's just a blank 5, but even a blank 5 is not bad, and you get both of your doubloons back, which means your other effects won't be able to be paid off in that case. So this card is just insanely strong, one of the best cards in the deck, easily. 2 copies, you'll love to see it. So next up, we're going to see a brace of primed pistols. Again, 2 copies of this in the deck. It's a 2 value attack that says after combat, deal 3 damage to an opposing fighter in Blackbeard's zone unless 2 doubloons are paid for ransom. So even if the opponent has 1 doubloon, they can't cancel this with the doubloons. They would have to use a natural, feint or whatever cancel to stop this effect. And this is like Jill's Battle of Wits automatically winning for you. I mean, but it's also any fighter in Blackbeard's zone. It doesn't even have to be the fighter in combat. Of course, the opponent can use that to their advantage by, defending from a zone cutoff. Then they know they don't have to worry about this because they're not in Blackbeard's zone for the auto damage. But this card's incredibly threatening. I mean, 3 auto is ridiculous. If you take it undefended, that's 5 total. Even if you defend with like a max value block, still taking 3 from it in auto damage feels horrible. So this card's really, really strong, and it's hard to cancel for the opponent. 2 doubloons is definitely a steep ransom to pay off this one. Moving on, we're going to see Give No Quarter. So it's a 3 value red attack, and it's an any, so the sidekicks can use this as well, the Sea Dogs. But Give No Quarter says during combat, if another friendly fighter is adjacent to the opposing fighter, this is a 5 instead. So it's kind of like the momentous shift of the deck. There's 3 copies, which is nice, but you have to have 2 of your fighters adjacent, including the attacker, in order for it to be a 5, so it's kind of telegraphed. And after combat, you gain an action unless they pay a doubloon. So it's kind of a Jeet in a way. It can be a 5 value Jeet, which is really good, but I think this one being telegraphed like it is kind of easy for the opponent to just be like, okay, I'm going to feint. If you're attacking me and you have 2 of your dudes adjacent to me, like why else would you be attacking me with another dude adjacent? Why wouldn't you just run the Sea Dog away or run Blackbeard away if that's the case? So with that being pretty telegraphed, they can just play a feint, and then they're gonna take 1 damage, but they're gonna be happy because they canceled the 5. They also canceled the action gain. They didn't even have to pay a doubloon. But of course, that leaves room for mind games, because it could be a Vast Yi, and if that gets feinted, you get 3 damage over the top. It does suck to have your effects canceled because a Vast Yi's effects are so strong, but if they can potentially be canceled anyways with paying off doubloons, then landing 3 damage over the top of a feint with this card is pretty good for Blackbeard, I think, overall. So it might create some nice mind games, and this card is potentially really good if it doesn't get feinted. But yeah, 3 copies is pretty nice to have, I think, in the deck. Then we're going to see the only blue card in the deck, I believe, Intimidating Visage. This card's insanely strong. It's a max value block, being a 4 value defense. After combat, if Blackbeard's adjacent to an opposing fighter, he recovers 2 health. That's ridiculous. This is a 4 value block with 2 healing most times, because most fighters are melee, so they have to be adjacent in order to make an attack. And even if they're ranged, you can force adjacency on plenty of maps and in plenty of situations, because maybe the opponent doesn't want to boost to get away from the adjacency just in anticipation of this card. So this is just an incredible defense. There's only 2 in the deck, which you would have loved to see 3 if you're Blackbeard, but you can't complain with having such an incredibly powerful defense. This is one of the best defenses in the game, so ridiculous card. Then we're going to move on. We're going to see Queen Anne's Revenge. You can obviously see a printed 7 value versatile is unheard of. That's absolutely ridiculous. 3 boost value. There's 2 in the deck. Its effects cannot be canceled, which is bad for Blackbeard, because you'll see the effect is during combat, you subtract 2 from this card's value for each doubloon your opponent pays. So this can be a 1, it can be a 3, it can be a 5, and it can be a 7, right? It just depends on how many doubloons the opponent has and how many they are willing to spend. So it's really hard to gauge this card. Obviously, if your opponent has no doubloons and you can attack with this, it's just a straight up 7, which is ridiculous. If they have 1 doubloon and you attack with this, it's okay. I mean, it's going to be a 5 at worst. It could still be a 7 if the opponent doesn't want to spend the doubloon. So it's definitely not a bad card. If you're defending with this, I can only see that in maybe a matchup where you really need huge value blocks, like maybe against Dracula if you feel Beast form is coming or something like that. But I think if you defend with this, it's just much worse. It's got a lot higher potential attacking with it, because if your opponent has doubloons and they're attacking and you defend with this card, chances are they're just not even going to spend the doubloons to bother reducing this, because you know, you're going to just full block it. They're going to keep the doubloons and be like, okay, fine, I just baited your 7. I keep the doubloons, and you move on with your life. So I think this is most likely an attack rather than a defense. Maybe niche situations, like I said, with Dracula, or if you absolutely have to, you'll defend with it. But most often you want to be attacking with this. And it can be insanely strong, but it just depends on the doubloons. The whole deck is about the doubloons and the passing of those back and forth. So you got to time this well, but having a printed 7 value attack is pretty nice. Okay, moving on, we're going to see Fearsome and Calculating. 3 value versatile. Immediately look at your opponent's hand and choose a card for them to discard unless they pay 1 doubloon. Insane card. I mean, this is Sultan's from Genie's deck, but it's a 3 value instead of a 2, which means it's an even better defensive card than Sultan's. The opponent can cancel it by paying a doubloon, but again, if you play this when they don't have any doubloons, this is just a ridiculous card. And you have 3 copies in the deck, which is an insane amount of value. I mean, discards are great. We've already seen potential random discards from Avasti, so that's a lot of value there. And getting the hand knowledge is huge, and this can just let you be like, oh, you only have a feint in hand, and you don't have any doubloons, let me attack you with Queen Anne's Revenge and just deal 5 over the feint and waste your feint, or just deal 7 undefended. I mean, there can be some crazy potential for big turns with this card. This is incredibly threatening. Definitely going to be something the opponent wants to pay the ransom to negate, because if they do negate it, it's a blank 3. Who cares? You negated an incredibly deadly effect, so definitely one to look out for canceling. Next up, we're going to see Parlay. It's basically the feint of the deck. It's a 3 value, but it says immediately cancel all effects on your opponent's card unless 2 doubloons. So Blackbeard's only cancel is conditional, which is a little sketchy. We know that fighters without cancels, that's a big weakness. And very few fighters, I feel like, can really make up for that weakness. Yananga being like one of the few exceptions, because she's so tanky and has combo potential and just basically everything else going for her. But I don't know. Having a conditional feint is rough, because obviously if the opponent only has 1 doubloon or 0, then this is a better feint. I mean, it's a 3 value feint, which is definitely better, but being restricted to when you can use this based on the doubloons is a little bit rough, because when the opponent is at 2 or more doubloons, they're going to be able to play as if you don't have cancels. And because if you do play this, they'll just pay the ransom and get their important effect to trigger guaranteed. So Little bit of a sketchy thing for Blackbeard, might be a big weakness, but we'll see. I mean, getting both your doubloons back might be nice as well, because then, as we can see, you have insane effects if you have all the doubloons under your control. So, I don't know. It's a really interesting one. We'll see how it plays out. Next card, No Prey, No Pay. 2 value versatile. During combat, you may boost it. After combat, if you won the combat, you draw a card. 3 copies of this in the deck. I feel like it's the regroup of the deck. I'm not a big fan. I love the art, but I don't think the card is all that good, because if we can look at the boost values, they're not very high that we can see so far. Your only 3s so far are Queen Anne's Revenge and Avasti, and those are like your best attacks. You definitely don't want to be using those to boost with. A lot of 1s, right? The only things are 2s, like Brace of Pistols. You don't want to boost with that. And Parlay, sure, you could boost with that one, probably okay, but it's only a 2 boost, which only makes this a 4. That's not all that good. I mean, it is a max value block, but to have to spend 2 cards for it feels kind of bad. And then you only draw if you win the combat, which maybe you want the draw, maybe you don't want the draw. So I don't know. I think this is a pretty mediocre card. It's an any, so like your Sea Dogs can use it if you really need to, but I think that's kind of the regroup of the deck in my opinion. Next up, we're going to see Show a Leg. This one's pretty funny. The art on it's funny, and it's pretty good. I mean, it's a 2 value versatile any. After combat, you summon a Sea Dog in Blackbeard's zone. So obviously, recursion on your token sidekicks is always very good. There's only 2 copies in the deck, so it's not a ton of recursion. You start with 2 of them. You get 2 of them back with this. That's only 4 token sidekicks, which is like Robin Hood, what he has naturally without Robin Hood's token recursion. So I don't know, it's not the best amount of sidekicks, but it's a fine card. You're never upset to have sidekick recursion. Next up, we're going to see Plunder. 3 copies of the scheme here. Move each of your fighters up to 3. They may move through opposing fighters, and you steal a doubloon from the treasury. So I think this card is a little bit underwhelming, but potentially can set up some really huge turns, because the opponent, when they have doubloons, they know that the doubloons are theirs. They can choose to spend for any ransom. Blackbeard can't just get them back if the opponent chooses to hold them, other than this card. So Plunder is very important in that regard, because the opponent might be like, okay, I have the 2 doubloons. Whenever he throws the parlay, I can guarantee to negate it so I don't get my effect canceled. But if Plunder is played, then that changes things, right? So this card, I think, is going to be really important. It is a pass because it doesn't gain action or draw cards, so I don't know if Blackbeard will care about passes at all. I don't think he's a fatigue fighter, but who knows? There's a lot of discard potential in the deck, so we'll see. But I do think this is probably an important card for Blackbeard to have, just to control the doubloons and the treasury on his terms. So pretty nice, and also a way to get through other sidekicks is always, never a bad thing to have. Then we see Scourge of the Seven Seas. This is a weird one because there's 3 effects, but the opponent chooses which effects you get based on what they want to pay for the ransom. So first effect being Blackbeard recovers 2 health unless they pay a doubloon. Obviously healing is amazing. Summon a Sea Dog in any space unless they pay a doubloon. Obviously sidekick recursion is amazing, and there's 2 copies of this scheme, so that makes upwards of 6 sidekicks total, which is a pretty respectable amount. Third one, gain an action unless the opponent spends a doubloon. That's the one that I really don't like, because if you're trying to be aggressive, sure, action gain is nice, but this card would be way better if it just said heal 2 and summon a Sea Dog. Like, that's an insane pass, because the healing kind of makes it a double pass. Getting a sidekick means that's an extra card your opponent has to spend on your token, which is more value, and it's body blocking, and it's everything you could want in a scheme. But the fact that the opponent gets to choose this stuff is really threatening, I think, for Blackbeard to play it. It's never going to work out the way he wants unless the opponent literally has no doubloons. If they have no doubloons, this is great. You get the healing, you get the recursion of your sidekick, and then you gain an action, that's whatever. But I just wish that there wasn't action gain on this card. I think that would make it a lot better. So that's a little unfortunate, because the opponent can pay 2 doubloons and be like, I negate the healing, I negate the sidekick recursion, you can keep your action gain. So you played this card, you retain your action, you got no value out of it. Yeah, you got your 2 doubloons, but I don't know. It really just can't gauge how this is actually going to play out in a 1v1, but this card is a little bit sketchy to me. And last card in the deck, Nothing too special. It's the only Sea Dog card though, which is nice because again, with only 3 copies means there's not going to be a lot of dead cards in your deck if the Sea Dogs happen to die off early and you can't get the recursion going. But it's called Light the Fuse, 2-value attack. After combat, move your fighter up to 2 spaces and then deal a damage to each fighter adjacent to them. So that is very good source of AoE, right? If you're dealing with opposing token sidekicks, this is really good for clearing them. It is a 3 boost value, so that's also very good because if you need to boost your maneuver or you want to boost the no pray no pay up to a 5, that's really nice because the Sea Dogs could attack with this card, boost with Light the Fuse, and they're hitting for a 5, which is really good, and it has some card draw if that's something you want. I don't know, you got to gauge the game state. But yeah, I think this is a really nice sidekick card, and being a 3 boost value is the best part about it. Like, if it was a 2 or a 1, it would feel so bad because it might just be a dead card if your sidekicks die early. But yeah, the 3 boost is really, really nice, and this is a great card to have to either use as a boost or it's a nice attack as well. So that's Blackbeard's whole deck. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know how this one's going to play out. It's a super interesting mechanic. I love the idea behind it all. The art is awesome. I love how Blackbeard is like a creepy, ethereal kind of ghost pirate. I just think that's so cool. And I'm really excited to try him out. I think, like I said, there's some high skill expression in this one on both sides with the doubloons passing back and forth. So it brings a new aspect to the game that we haven't seen yet, and you love those new mechanics. At least I do personally. I like to see what Unmatched can do in terms of pushing the boundaries of the game as it evolves. And being Battle of Legends Volume 3, you know, it's a very advanced set. It's the 3rd in a series that I think gets increasingly more complex as it goes, and that's exactly what I want to see out of a recurring series like that, and a great way to send off Battle of Legends, which is my favorite sets of Unmatched for sure. So let's take a quick look at the map before we end the video. Alright, so we are going to check out the map real quick, like I promised. The first location is Venice, and yeah, first, again, this is a double-sided map, which I know a lot of people are going to be really happy about. They haven't done a double-sided in quite some time. I think Battle of Legends Volume 2 was when they stopped doing the double-sided, and that seems like forever ago. So pretty cool that they're bringing them back. As a competitive player or ex-competitive player, I don't know that I am a big fan because it just gets overwhelming with so many maps, but a lot of people out there love it, so that's cool. And this location being Venice is really awesome because last year I got to visit Venice myself before the Cobble and Frogs tournament in Paris, and I gotta say, Venice is incredible. It's such a cool city. If anybody is interested at all, I would highly recommend it. And I love how they brought that awesome location into Unmatched because it's a pretty nice looking map. I love how the blue zone here follows the canal waterway. You got your gondolas here, and it's just really nice. There's nothing super special about this map. There's a couple of like over-under paths, like here, and here's over-under, and then another one here, over and under. But we've seen that before plenty, at least in the bronze. I know we saw it, I think, at first, or in Marmorial, actually. But it's just connections, you know, it's a standard map, nothing super fancy about it. But yeah, that's Venice, and let's take a look at the other side. It's going to be Santa's Workshop. This one's a little bit more unique. First of all, it's kind of a ridiculous location, but it's really cool. It's got a new mechanic being the conveyor belt. So all of these spaces, they're highlighted with purple rings. As you can see, it makes sense as they go along the conveyor belt. At the end of any player's turn, any fighter standing on one of these spaces gets pushed 1 space further on the conveyor belt. If you are standing in this space at the end of a fighter's turn, then you get launched because you're getting launched into the package bin. So you get launched to any empty yellow space of your choice. So you get to pick which one you land in, but you get launched across by the catapult into the toy bin or right outside of it at least. Those dual zones do count. But yeah, it's a really neat mechanic. I don't know how I don't know how much it's going to affect things in a standard 1v1 game, but it was pretty fun in 2v2 to watch people get shifted. If somebody's adjacent to like the conveyor belt in one of these blue spaces, for example, like let's say there's an enemy here, and you go here to attack them, then at the end of your turn you automatically get pushed over and you're no longer adjacent starting their turn. So that's a really nice little strategy you can use with the conveyor belt. You can also see some one-way arrows here and then up here as well. So a number of those, but nothing too crazy because this is not a raptor paddock pit, because although there's one-way arrow in and a couple one-ways out, you can still see a connection here and here and here, so there's plenty of ways to escape. It's not a pit. Same thing over here. It's like not a big deal, but it's just like this is up on the ledge, so you've got the one-way arrows going down other than the ladder, the steps here, and then this is the toy bin and you got the one-ways going out, but nothing too crazy. The conveyor belt mechanic is pretty neat, and I'll be interested to see how much of a difference that actually makes in competitive play. Like maybe there's situations where, I don't know, you can defensive skirmish your opponent and push them onto the conveyor belt on purpose, and then the conveyor belt will shift them. Maybe, you know, shift them over here and then make them get launched and while you run the other way. I don't know, we're gonna have to see, but it's a neat little gimmick. Would be interesting to see more of it in the future, and it's a cool looking map overall. So there you have it. That is Santa's Workshop, and that's going to be it for Battle of Legends Volume 3. I've shown everything off. I hope you all enjoyed it, as well as the commentary and the insight in terms of all the cards and strategy and whatnot. I always have a blast making these videos because I love to see the new sets, and I avoid spoilers in order to do what I do, or I play a blind playthrough, you know, with the new cards when I haven't seen them, and every card you draw is just like so cool to see, and that's a blast, and I'd highly recommend anybody to do it if you can avoid spoilers yourself. But yeah, that is Battle of Legends Volume 3.
Alright guys, there you have it. That's it for Battle of Legends Volume 3 box opening, and it's a super awesome set, and I'm sure you're all super excited. So make sure you go order yours online. I'm sure by the time you are seeing this video, it has either already gone up for pre-orders on the Restoration Games website or is going up soon. Whatever the case may be, make sure you go online, check it out, and order your own copy so you can get your hands on this awesome set and a great send-off to Battle of Legends series, and some of the best Unmatched characters, I think, to date. So I can't wait to play them more in 1v1 myself. I think they're all super fun and unique, and that's just what I love to see. So yeah, that's going to be it for the video. Hope you all enjoyed and are hyped for this new release, and I will hopefully be streaming some more games on my Twitch channel, and where I play out, you know, some of the new fighters with some of the community members. I know I owe Floam some games from Patreon, so I'll probably be getting him on there and maybe some other people to try out some of these new fighters. I really want to test them out more. They're super fun, so can't wait for that. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and comment down below what you think of the new set and all the new fighters. Who is your favorite? Who are you most anticipating? I would love to hear about it down below. And then be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I'm sure most of you are, but if you're not, go ahead and subscribe so you can be up to date with all of my Unmatched content. I also release some other content for Goodknack and some other games, which hopefully I can do some more in the future, but we'll see, you know, time permitting. I got a lot of matchup of the months to catch up on, I know. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and also if you want to support me on Patreon, I would appreciate that. It helps me pay my editor Darkblade, who you may know from the Unmatched community as well. If you're unfamiliar, go check out his channel at Darkblade113. Puts out some great Unmatched content, famous for the Full Send Friday series that he does with Big Mike, in which case they just have a wackier side of Unmatched going, and they just full send it, and all kinds of crazy stuff happens. It's always fun to see. So yeah, if you want to help me support my editor Darkblade, I appreciate all the Patreon support from you guys. Helps me, you know, release more content, because then I can pay him to do the editing while I don't have time to do it myself. So I appreciate all the support out there from everybody, by any means, whether it's Patreon or the likes and the subs and all that good stuff. I love being a part of this community, and these reveals are always a blast. So huge thank you to Restoration Games for sending me the set early in order to do this box opening, as well as all the reveals that I've gotten to be a part of. It's much appreciated, you guys. Even though I don't have as much time for the game as I used to, I still love it, and you guys are the best. So thank you so much for all of that, and I hope to continue doing this for quite some time in the future. So thanks everybody for watching. That's going to do it for this one, but I appreciate all you out there. Thanks again for watching. I'm ZeroSkater12, and I'll see you next time.